Welcome everybody to the Spark Systems YouTube channel. Once again, we're looking at our urban parking system repository. My name's Scott and I'm joined by Stephen Maguire. And today I understand that we're going to be looking at an analysis diagram. So Stephen, could you tell us what an analysis diagram is and how we might be able to use it?
Great, thanks for the introduction, Scott. The analysis diagram is a general purpose diagram. The purpose of it is to enable people to draw some simple representations of analysis they've done in a particular part of the model, typically focused around processes and information. But let's have a look at one, Scott, and get into this, go a deep dive into this model. As always, we set our perspective in the top right-hand corner. We have the perspective set, and I have been doing some threat modeling earlier. I'm now going to turn my focus to analysis, and if we look down here in the analysis perspective set, we can see one that's called simple analysis. So the title tells the story. Let's set that perspective, and let's have a look. We've got a number of different patterns here that we could use, but as always, Scott, I want to do things from first principle. So let's close that. Let's find a location for this in our project browser. The analysis model is a good start. Let's put a new package in for that, and let's call it analysis model infringement reviews. So parking infringement reviews. This is all to do with our urban parking system. Let's do the package only there to start, and then let's create a diagram underneath. I can move some of these panels up, very flexible part of the tool, and let's put a diagram in there, and you can see now that it's come up with that single diagramming option. It defaults the name to the one that we want. Let's go OK to that. And as always, the tool now has given us a blank canvas to start with and a toolbox with some useful elements in there. We've got relationships, and we've also got elements. So let's start this process, and let's look at putting an actor in. So let's put an actor on there. Comes up as a stick figure, and let's look at the name for that. We'll call it the infringement officer. So again, let's just put that title in there for name for the actor, and let's start this process off by an item in here that you can see in the toolbox is a send. And so let's look at that send, and we'll put that onto the diagram, and we'll give that a name, infringement notice sent. So that's kind of the start of the process, and let's make that slightly bigger. Again, flexibility to move things around, and using the smart grid alignment there, I've got that element perfectly lined up. Now, the next thing I want to do is let's have a look at this has been sent to the motorist, and let's have a look at what the motorist might be doing. So if you think about, Scott, most people are in a position they've received a parking fine at some time, a parking infringement. Let's put a process on there. And I remember when I unfortunately got one when I was rushing to do something, the thing that I wanted to do was to collect evidence as to why I should get an exemption from this thing. So what I've done there is I'm going to make that slightly bigger there. And now the evidence that I'm going to collect, let's put some information items in here, and we'll think about the kind of evidence that we would connect. This is why it's called an analysis diagram, because we are actually just analysing the kind of things that are going to go on in a particular scenario. So let's have a look at this information one. Let's put in, we want some photos and videos of the situation that we have. Make this again a slightly bigger, and always good just to be able to rejig your diagram when you're working. And maybe we've got some parking meter records. Maybe there's some things that are on our smartphones, things that we've got. So let's put that in, and we've got some other information that we might want. Maybe we do have a permit to park in that location, and we need to make the council aware of that. So we'll put an information item in here, and we'll call that permit documentation. So this is the start of the model, Scott. It's relatively straightforward model, and we can keep putting in processes here. For example, let's put in driver disputes infringement, and on we go. So we can line these things up. So relatively simple diagram. I'm going to put, some flow elements between lines in between here. So I'll put a flow in there and another flow there. I can grab that from the toolbox as well. So let's. I'm going to complete this diagram, Scott, and then we'll get you to. I'll get you to perform some magic in the meantime while I finish it off.
Welcome back, Stephen. I've done my magic and done some editing so that we now have got to the point where we've got a completed diagram. I can see that you've got different colors for some of the different objects, and you've got a nice legend there. And what kind of stage in the development process would you perhaps have an analysis diagram, and what are some of the benefits that you might get out of such a diagram?
Yeah, great question, Scott. As always, we're not just modeling because we've got nothing else to do. We're modeling to try and create a story, create a narrative, communicate with the other disciplines. So this diagram could actually occur at multiple levels. A very, very normal scenario is right at the beginning of the project, and that's why we've put it into the analysis models. It's getting some ideas down on the page about what processes are going on, what information is consumed, who's involved in it. But we could also draw this diagram at a much deeper level if someone was analysing something that was, even in a development sense of something with a communication protocol and the processes that were involved in that, the information that was required. So a general purpose diagram, but very, very useful and very expressive and quite simple to draw. And people who are less familiar with some of the other frameworks and formal languages might find this diagram, a refreshing place to start, because there isn't the same rigor behind it. So it gives you some flexibility. It still tells a story, but it allows you to be a little bit freer in the way that you communicate things. The other thing to mention is that the color that you mentioned has come from this legend. Now, just to reiterate this, we've looked at this in previous videos. This legend, it colors the diagram automatically based on a particular property. In this case, I've got I'll bring that out, Scott, the property window, you can see it. I've got it based on the element type. So I could base it on all sorts of different things, stereotype, keywords, difficulty, all sorts of things. But I've got it based on the type, and those things are being set automatically. And, the really interesting thing is, Scott, I finished that diagram quite quickly and coloured it all up, not because I'm necessarily incredibly fast, but because I was able to reuse that legend from a previous example. So if we look at that legend, we can see that it's got all its fill colors there, but where does it live in the browser? So I can say find in project browser, and I can also use this little icon in the toolbar to find it, and it's come up here and said it's in the simple analysis legend as part of the, if you look at that, that's part of the libraries. So all I did is just drag that onto the diagram, and I'll show you that again, Scott. If I take that off the diagram, and you can see everything goes back to normal, but if I drag it back on again, there's a couple of elements there. You can see that it
does so much work for you, just instantly colouring everything on screen.
Yeah, and while the shapes tell the story as well, I like to use a little bit of colour here and there, remembering that it's not a very strong semantic indicator, but it is necessarily and conveniently a very expressive thing in diagrams. So I encourage you to put some colour in, but always put a legend in to explain what it is, and let the legend do that dynamic work.
Excellent. Well, thank you once again. I'd like to thank our audience for watching this video and learning all about analysis models. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, we encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe to the Sparx Systems YouTube channel using the links below. If you want assistance from Stephen, please feel free to reach out via the LinkedIn credentials and the website details listed in the description of this video. As always, thank you for your expertise, and it's been great to see an analysis video be developed from first principles. So great to have your modeling capabilities on show once again. So thanks, Stephen.
Always a pleasure, Scott. Thank you.